Okay, hopefully you remember from last lesson that when we write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b, that m tells us the gradient and b tells us the y-intercept. Alright, so we need to know that information if we're given an equation and asked to graph it. So there are a number of different ways of graphing equations. This is just one method that works. So the first thing that you need to identify in your equation is the y-intercept. Now that's always the number that's on its own. So our y-intercept here is positive 5. So I'm just going to write these things down. I'm going to use the letter b, that's what we normally use in maths. So b is equal to positive 5. I also need to know my gradient. So my gradient here is the number that's attached to the x. So here's the x, the number attached to that is negative 2. So my gradient is negative 2. Alright, so to graph this, I've got a number plane here, remembering that this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. So to start with, I always start with my y-intercept, which is 5. So on my graph, now when you're drawing this, you do actually need to use the grid. So on my number line here, I'm going to find where 5 is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 5. I'm going to mark that, and I'm going to write it in. Then I use my gradient. Now remember, gradient is rise over run. Now here we've only got a whole number. To know what the rise is and what the run is, we need a fraction. So if you have a whole number, you can always just put it over 1. Alright, because 2 over 1 is still 2. So you can just write that. So remembering that the number on the top is the rise, the number on the bottom is the run, I start at 5, because that's the point that I've just marked, and my rise is negative 2. So that means I'm going to go down to here, and my run is 1, so I'm going to go across 1. So the point where I would put this new point is there. Alright, now I'm just going to get rid of these curves so you can see exactly where my point is. So it was here. I'll just show you how I got there in another colour. Okay, so remember I started at the y-intercept. My rise was negative 2, so I went down 2. My run was 1, so I go across to the right 1. And that's where I place my point. So to draw my line, it must go through those 2 points that I've just drawn up. And I want to draw a line. So we're going to go like this. Now if your line doesn't go in the right spot when you put it there on OneNote, just pick up one of the ends and move it so that it's going nicely through the 2 points. It doesn't matter if it extends, it's actually good for it to extend out. Okay, so there we go. I've got my line going through those 2 points. Okay, let's have a look at the second. Oh, and I should label that point there. So remember, I went down 2, so my y value is 3. Remember, the y value is the second number. And I went across 1, so my x value is 1. So that's the information that I should have on my diagram. I don't need to draw these little loops, okay, but I'll leave them there just to show you how I got there. Okay, let's have a look at the second one. So, same idea. Start with your y-intercept. The y-intercept is negative 2. I'm just going to write that down so we remember. So this time, negative 2 is down here, so I'm going to write that on there. Then my gradient is 3 over 4. 3 over 4. So what that means is that my rise is 3 and my run is 4. So from that negative 2 that I've just marked, I'm going to go up 3. So I'm going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go across 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where I'm going to put my new point. Alright, now what are the coordinates of that? So remember I went across 4, and the across is my x coordinate, so I went across from 0 all the way to 4, so my x coordinate is 4. My y-coordinate, I was at -2, but I went up 3. So my y-coordinate is now 1. Alright, I've got my 2 points that my line has to go through, so I'm going to graph my line. Okay, so there's my line. I've got it going through the second point. I might just need to fix it up a little so that it's going through both points. Okay, not such an easy thing to do on this. Ah, okay, there we go. Okay, so that's how we do, that's how we graph lines using the y-intercept and the gradient. Remember that you should always label your x and y axis as well. Okay, now it's your turn to try.